Welcome back to this week's San Diego People. Our focus this morning is the aftermath of this past week's primary and what it means as we head into November. Joining me now is Ron Nehring, former chair of the state GOP, who had a nice showing in the primary. In fact, it was so nice that you will be running against incumbent Gavin Newsom for lieutenant governor in November. Right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So here we go again. People weren't having that high of expectations for the primary and the turnout, and that seems to be the case. It looks like we're on track to have the lowest voter turnout in California history. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that our democracy works best when everybody is fully participating. But what we've seen in this election cycle is a lot of offices were unopposed. Many of the members of our legislative delegation from San Diego County, for example, had no opponent whatsoever. And who gets the vote out? It's candidates and political parties that get the vote out. And so we shouldn't be surprised when we see so many people running unopposed that the turnout's going to be a little lower.
27%, I think, is what it's going to end up being, the turnout in California. You had issued a statement this week about the open primary and how many people thought that it would lead to more people voting in the election. And in fact, it's done just the opposite.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these systematic changes to our democracy, which very often get billed as one thing, and then, but you know, they don't necessarily turn out that way. And so when people advocated for, well, it wasn't really the open primary, it's really abolishing primaries. Everybody's on the same ballot, and what June is now a general election, November is now a runoff, and people said, well, independents will all turn out and vote now, and that hasn't been the case at all. So with these experiments in our democracy, we should, never, we have to temper our expectations in terms of, is it really going to have that dramatic of a change? It has not had a dramatic change in turnout. In fact, we've seen the opposite. I think part of the reason for that is that it creates an incentive for political leaders to discourage people from running for office. For example, some political party leaders in districts that are dominated by the other party discourage members of their own party from running, so that you have two people of the same party in the general election, so that it burns up a lot of money on the one team that then can't be used in competitive elections on the other. So there are all these kind of weird incentives that are created in a change like this. And so, there's going to be plenty of discussion going forward in terms of what the ultimate impact is. But we see the law of unanticipated, consequences has not been repealed.
Well, let's talk about you going forward to November. You'll be facing incumbent Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. What will be some of the themes of your campaign, and how do you anticipate things will go, and what will you do to try to win?
Well, we're going to look at the entire state as a whole. Right now, we have one-party government in California. Just the Democrats run every statewide office. They have a large majority in the legislature, so they really own the status quo. And the status quo is not doing too well. Right now, California has the highest poverty rate in the nation by far. We have the fourth highest unemployment rate in the country. We have schools that are ranked near the bottom nationally. And I think part of the reason for this is that we only really have one voice being heard in Sacramento today. Now, Democrats should have a voice in Sacramento, but so should Republicans. And that's the only way we're going to get the best ideas going forward. And so we need to break this monopoly up that's in Sacramento. We need to add Republican voices to be part of the solution. And I think that should start with having a Republican lieutenant governor.
And another Republican that will be facing a top state lawmaker, of course, Jerry Brown, would be moderate Neel Kashkari. What kind of race do you see that being? People say that Jerry Brown is unbeatable.
Well, I remember people in 2007 saying that Hillary Clinton was unbeatable for the Democratic nomination for president, and a year later it was Barack Obama, or people saying that Gray Davis would serve out his entire second term as governor, but yet a year after taking office in his second term, he was recalled and replaced with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Politics is dynamic, and you have to be careful about people, with their predictions and so on. Certainly every Republican running statewide is an underdog. We know that, and that includes Neel Kashkari, who's now our nominee for governor. But Neil's a fresh face. He has very interesting things to say. He's very focused on both jobs and education. And I think that's right. And he's going to make an effort not only to win the governor's office, but also to build and expand the Republican Party in California. That's an important thing. So I think we're going to have a good ticket.
The Republican Party in San Diego has a lot to shout out about after Tuesday's primary election. There were some very good results. So why do you see a turnaround happening?
Well, I think that Mayor Kevin Faulconer really sets a great example for Republicans wherever they're running. The city has more Democrats than Republicans. In fact, Republicans are third in registration in the city of San Diego, yet we have a Republican mayor, Kevin Faulconer, even though he was outspent by $1 million in that special election. So he really sets a great model. Here in San Diego County. We reelected District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, a Republican. We did well at the San Diego City Council level. We're set up to pick up a seat at the San Diego City Council later on. We held on to the assessor's office. So, I think we had a very, very good night. And we've demonstrated in San Diego County that building a strong Republican Party organization produces tangible results in moving voters and moving an election. And so we've seen that play out. And we need every county in California to be well organized. And that's another effort of ours to help those counties get to where they need to be.
And moving on to November, some of the main issues that you see, creating jobs in San Diego, everybody's talking about that. What are some of the other issues?
Well, a few things. One of them is we really have to tackle these frivolous lawsuits that are directed and aimed at small businesses, that are killing small businesses and the jobs that they're needed. It's not big businesses that creates jobs. It's small businesses growing into big businesses. That's where the job creation takes place. And they're very susceptible to these frivolous lawsuits. The American Tort Reform Association calls California America's #1 judicial hellhole. And there's all types of frivolous lawsuits that are taking place that we need to rein in. Another is education reform. We have some schools where no learning is going to take place this coming week. And we need to give parents and students more options and alternatives. So if you're sending your child to a failing school, you should have the ability to get your child out of there and send them to a school that works. So those are some of the other issues we're going to talk about.
Something that happened in Northern California, and this might be just out of left field for you, but voters in 3 far Northern California counties there was some sort of campaign to make Northern California the 51st state, somewhere around Tehama County, which is very far north, and that seems to have gone by the wayside. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there are some people in Northern California who feel that our state government in Sacramento has no interest in their issues, is not looking out for them, and it's relatively sparsely populated, only 3 assembly districts. San Diego County alone has 8, to give you a sense of the population. I don't support breaking California up. I love California. California has international, brand identity, and people are not going to break our state up. But it does speak to the concerns that many people in Northern California have, that when it comes to issues like water and taxes and their Second Amendment rights and individual liberties, that they're not represented by the government in Sacramento. And so that's really the cause of a lot of this. We need to make sure that all voices are at the table. They're not all at the table right now. We only have one party control. That's why we need to restore balance. We need to restore some checks and balances, and that's what this campaign is going to be about.
All right. Ron Nehring, candidate for Lieutenant Governor of California. Again, congratulations on the primary on Tuesday, and
thank you.
We'll be talking to you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Still ahead on This Morning San Diego People, what is next for the Democratic Party in San Diego and across the state? We'll have more on that coming up.